Welcome back to our fourth segment on the R&D tax credit.
Today's segment discusses the expenses you are allowed to take in calculating the R&D credit.
These expenses are known as qualified research expenses, or QREs. It's important to note there are only three expenses you are allowed to capture when computing your R&D credit: wages, supplies, and contract research expenses. Over the next three slides, we are going to run through an example using Bob as the boss, myself as the engineer, and Sarah as my direct supervisor.
Eric and Sarah, our company performs research and development, and I need to capture and document the wages associated with your R&D efforts over the last year. For simplicity purposes, we will say that as an owner, I am not involved in R&D, although this is often not the case.
As the engineer, my entire time was spent on R&D activities, so my $100,000 salary would be included in the calculation.
As Eric's supervisor, I spent 50% of my time reviewing his work and 20% of my time directly involved in research and development. That means I can take 70% of my $150,000 salary.
So from a salary perspective, we have $205,000 of qualifying research and development wages. It's also important to note that the company would be able to capture wages of employees that directly supported Eric or Sarah related to these R&D activities. So guys, we've got our wages, but are there any other expenses we can capture?
Our accountants at Dopkins told me that the materials and supplies used and consumed in the research process are qualified research expenses.
The total supplies were $100,000. However, Dopkins informed us that $30,000 does not qualify because that cost relates to a fixed asset.
So that means that we have $70,000 in qualifying supplies. Are there any other expenses we can take?
The only other expenses that we can take are related to our contracts with third parties.
We hired a U.S.-based engineering company to help us with our research. The contract cost was $500,000.
Dopkins informed us that the contract research expenses are limited to only 65%. Therefore, we can claim $325,000 as QREs.
So in total, we have $205,000 of qualifying wages, $70,000 of qualifying supplies, and $325,000 in qualifying contract research expenditures, for a grand total of $600,000 of QREs. So how do we calculate our credit? If you think that you may qualify for the Research and Development Credit, or if you have any questions regarding this presentation, please contact us. Thanks again for joining us.